Try that again. Let's see if we can get this going without the echo because I had Twitch open in the background. Renee, can you hear me all right?
Yep.
No echoes from you either? Awesome. I think we've got audio video figured out.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. There's like a 5-second delay for me, so it's really uncanny.
On the audio?
On the actual video, so like we're
Oh,
talking back and forth, and then it's playing for me like 5 seconds later.
yep, yeah, and it'll be like that throughout. So I would, maybe not watch the video part of
Yeah,
it
no, I'm not.
as
I'm
we're.
not gonna. I can't do it. I keep looking at myself and watching me move.
Not a problem. All right. Looks like we've got a few people that are in chat right now. I don't know who was here the last week. I guess it was last Monday. Did we do it Monday or the week before? I forget because I was kind of out of pocket.
Yeah, I feel like it might have been 2 weeks ago. I can't remember.
Okay, let's just go with that. Whoever was here for the first Q&A stream that we did a couple weeks ago, I think we had some technical issues with the video and it was super choppy. If you're seeing that, if you could shoot me a message in the chat, that'd be great, so we can try to resolve it. But so my name's Levi Russell. I'm the founder of GM Binder, and what we're here to do tonight is to talk about GM Binder. I've got Renee with me. You want to give an introduction for yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Renee. I work for Levi. I am a designer and a front-end developer. So I've been working pretty closely with him on GM Binder.
Kibble says our video is working good, or working
Perfect.
better than it was. Yeah, so Renee, you've done most, well, not most, you've done, well, yeah, I guess Lauren helped a bit too, but most of the design work with the Kickstarter that we have put together and whatnot. So for those of you that are jumping in here for the first time, I think if you've interacted with anybody at GM Binder or with GM Binder over the last 2 years, it's predominantly been me in Discords and Slack, and or not Slack, but a Discord and Reddit and those sorts of things. But as we've kind of at the office taken this on further, you wouldn't want, as you can see from GM Binder today, we need a little help on the design side, and that's where Renee's really jumped in to help out. So what we're going to do is go through some questions. Unlike the last Q&A session, we actually have a series of questions put together, kind of an outline for things to talk about. So we're going to go through that. Because this is an ongoing stream, we're probably going to be here for an hour or so. We'll go through this a couple times, so don't feel obligated to stay in here the whole time. However, what we are going to do that I had said we were going to do last time, and then we completely forgot about it, was to do a giveaway. So part of the Kickstarter that we have going on, we did put together some custom dice for GM Binder. If you can see in the pictures that we have of them, basically they're a metal dice set with purple coloring to them, except for the top numbers. So the 20, the 12, the 10, 6, etc., the 8 and 4, I guess now I got them all, are going to be a orange color. So they'll be a unique set of dice. They're not your normal giveaway. And actually, before you do enter the code, I need to start it. This is my first time doing a live giveaway. And let me just quick check the settings because I was doing some testing. So we'll do the giveaway in an hour. Looks like Twitch or Streamlabs actually will manage it for us. So if you give me just a moment here, start giveaway. We'll let Streambot do its thing. There we go. All right. So now in Slack, if you do the pound giveaway or exclamation giveaway, you will be entered into the drawing. So Showtime, if you want to go ahead and do it one more time, because I don't think your first one counted. There we go. See, I'm starting to see it already. You will need to follow the channel in order to be qualified for this. That's the only qualification, is to follow us here on Twitch. So if those alerts get to be annoying, I'll turn off the sound. I'm not sure if I did change the defaults there or not. But anyways, so there's the first two items in our agenda, Renee. Let's see, the third one is the Kickstarter update. So as we're getting started here, those of you that, I assume if you're here, you're aware that we have a Kickstarter running for GM Binder. We kicked it off about 2 weeks ago. We have roughly, you'd think I'd have the page up in front of me, 23 days left, ending on October 16th. We're at about $39,000. Our funding goal in Kickstarter was $30,000, and we have a number of stretch goals that we've identified as well. And we have a few others that we'd like to announce, but I think we're going to wait till next week before we start talking about them. So you can ask those questions. We'll choose not to answer them at this point. So, anyways, with the Kickstarter, very much appreciate the support that you guys have given, and shown with that. We've had a ton of questions. We've had way more discussions than I think Renee or I anticipated. It was Renee's kind of first introduction to the community, and it's been interesting to say the least. So anyways, for those that aren't familiar, I got to do the thing, right? There is the URL for our Kickstarter campaign. Definitely check it out. All right, let's get into it. So we talked a little bit about the Kickstarter. I'm going to go through some of the Q&A or FAQ items from the Kickstarter. We'll get those out of the way first, and then we'll talk about the GM Binder itself, what it's intended for, what you can do. At any time throughout this, though, please throw your questions into chat. We'd like this to be more of a discussion, and Renee and I have a few things that we're going to talk about throughout this, but throw your questions into chat, and we'll answer them as best we can. So I want to start with the first couple here. So what if you support us on Patreon already? So those of you that do support us on Patreon should be aware that obviously that means a ton to us. So that's what we've used to essentially pay for our servers for the last 2 years. Certainly doesn't cover time by any means, but it's paid for our server costs. It's covered our hard costs and ensured that we've been able to keep things up and running. And for that, we are extremely grateful for the people that have supported us. And we want to make sure that we're giving back in some way. So as we indicated with our Patreon way back in November of 2017, all the support that you've given us, we want to repay it. So what we're going to do is actually give anybody that has supported us on Patreon a month of GM Binder Plus for every $3 that you've contributed there. And there are some details in regards to the specific date. I believe it's April 1st of 2020 is when that's effective. It is a lifetime is what we're going to look at. So if you've supported us there and you support us on the Kickstarter, and you've chosen one of the rewards that gets you a GM Binder Plus membership, they're going to stack. So the second question is, how do you get your GM Binder Plus membership? What we'll be doing is giving everybody promo codes, one-time use promo codes for GM Binder Plus. And what that'll allow you to do is obviously use them yourself. You can stack them. So if you get one via the Patreon, or you get a membership via the Kickstarter, you can use them both. So maybe you get a year on the Kickstarter, and via Patreon you've gotten 10 months or something like that. You'll end up with 22 months that you can use. We did get some questions about people that use or get the lifetime reward on the Kickstarter. It's a tricky situation, and I can't give you the exactly what you should do, other than to say these promo codes are transferable. So maybe you do decide to back us at a lifetime level on the Kickstarter. That's awesome. We really appreciate that. But you've already supported us on Patreon. The best answer I can give you, and I'm open to conversations, we're open to conversations on this, is to maybe give that Patreon promo code away. Give it away to your DM or to somebody else that you think would get value out of it. So they are fully transferable. And then related to the Kickstarter, there was a question about multiple rewards. Like many Kickstarters that you've probably participated in, we will be using BackerKit at the end of the campaign. And what that will allow you to do is to select, I want this membership reward, and I want the dice, or I want all of the swag, or whatever it is. You'll have the option to do that at the end of the campaign. If you aren't familiar with it, typically what you would do is back the full amount. So you'd add the two prices together for the rewards and back at that amount, and then know that you can select it at the end. Because once you get into the Pledge Manager, you'll essentially have a balance of whatever you've backed in Kickstarter to use towards your item. So I don't have the rewards in front of me, but you pledged enough to get the 1 year and the dice set. You'll only be able to select one in Kickstarter, but in BackerKit you'll be able to select them both and use your funds however you see fit. So Renee, looks like we do have a question in chat. Curious what the marketplace will look like, function like remember you were talking about new profile changes. What are those going to look like? More social media like, Reddit like, something else. My cat is very distracting. Yeah, she is. I'm actually kind of surprised she's up there. As I was resetting up my layout here, she knocked over something over the weekend and really hasn't been laying there. But that is about the most lazy look that you could possibly have. So a couple things. To clarify, at this point, we're not talking about a marketplace in GM Binder. What GM Binder is a place to share and find content, homebrew content for tabletop RPGs. So to go on with some of your other questions, I don't know if we're going to have screenshots today. Renee, were you planning on showing actual mocks later on?
I pulled them up, so I have them ready.
Okay.
So if we ever wanted to flip to them, I can.
Yeah, later in this conversation here, after we get through some of these Kickstarter questions, we do have kind of a 5 or 6 part thing that is some of the material that we're working on right now to show what the future of GM Binder is going to look like. And actually, all of your questions are answered. So just to kind of take them one by one, a new profile change. So we'll talk about the author profile and your ability to promote content, to promote yourself, to have a little bio, and for users to be able to follow you and that sort of thing. Will social media like and Reddit like? Reddit like in the context of we do anticipate building some review and feedback and rating systems into GM Binder. We'll talk more about it when we get to that part here in a little bit, but I think ultimately your questions are going to be answered here just shortly. Other than my distracting lazy cat. Her name's Mara, by the way. Renee, you want to jump into the next one?
Yeah, like in the more social media like one, or
in the question list.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so one of the questions was, will there be a lifetime GM Binder Plus option after the Kickstarter? So right now, the lifetime membership is a Kickstarter exclusive. So in the future, we probably won't be offering that, but if we do, you're still definitely going to get the best deal out of the Kickstarter, because we kind of want to reward the people who supported us at the very beginning.
Yep, and that it's we don't. I mean, we need to offer something that's attractive in the Kickstarter, and I think this was the best way for us to go. And I've been surprised. We've been asked that question a handful of times already. I think Renee, you've got pinged a couple times, and whether or not we're going to do the lifetime, and if we do, it will be more expensive than what it is in the Kickstarter, because we want the Kickstarter to be something special, and that's the whole point of doing Kickstarter. So in our Discord, which by the way, let me 2 seconds. I should have had these links ready, and this will never expire. So we have already established the GM Binder Discord server, and so there was a couple questions that were asked in our Discord server earlier today. One of the questions that was asked was, when should you expect to see the first wave of improvements post the Kickstarter campaign? And I'll try not to ramble on and on about this question, other than to say our campaign ends October 16th. We already have development in or actively going right now. So I'm not going to give dates or timelines for specific features or even a roadmap yet at this point, because I think we need to wait to see where the Kickstarter lands from a funding standpoint and really nail down the specific features that we're going to build. Obviously, the stretch goals that we have in place are intended to give an idea of where we're going and whatnot, and we'll certainly honor those. But I do see a scenario where we may be able to build more, or if it makes sense to work in other features that maybe we didn't quite hit that stretch goal, that we want to have those in there. So to answer the question of when, we have committed to an overall deliverable of April 1st of 2020. So I didn't intentionally pick April Fool's Day as a joke, but I do feel like that's a pretty open timeline for us. And for those of you that don't know, GM Binder is really, it's always been a side project for us. So Renee and I both work at a development shop here in Des Moines, Iowa. So we build software, web platforms, mostly web and mobile platforms, on a regular basis. And GM Binder was created as kind of a side thing, and for the last 9 months or so hasn't gotten a ton of focus, but we continue to support. By having this Kickstarter and creating this GM Binder Plus membership, it's going to give us the ability to better support the platform long term. So there was another question asked today of, and this was, I believe it was on Twitter is where I saw this one. What features are we going to build in an ongoing basis? So whatever we commit to with the Kickstarter and build out there, are there things that we intend to build after the fact? And the short answer is yes. I don't have a way to tell you what those features are just yet, because we need to wait to see where the Kickstarter is going to land. But maybe in summary, once the Kickstarter is complete, we will publish a larger list of what we're going to do in not a timeline, but an order in which we're going to tackle. And we release features as they are complete. So we obviously have some kind of architectural changes that we need to make to the overall look and feel. Those are going to take a little bit of time, but once that kind of core is in place, we'll be pushing features on a regular basis. We typically push things on a weekly basis at a minimum, if not more frequent than that, on a daily or whatnot. Just depends on how much we're working on it on a weekly basis. So hopefully that answers that question. And there was another question in Discord about World Anvil and Dungeon Fog. So this has been one of the more interesting things to come up since we started the campaign. I think Renee, what was it, the second day or first day we were reached out, or we had sort of reach out to us and started a conversation there. But we really can't speak a lot about it at this point because we're still trying to work out the details, other than to say that the three of us are trying to work together to bolster GM Binder's ability to publish content. Obviously, both of those platforms are great at producing content in their specific kind of areas, and we do a pretty solid job of generating and publishing final, good-looking documents. So that's kind of the high level of the conversation. Renee, you want to jump in on the watermarking, and I'll try to catch up on chat here?
Yeah. So one of the biggest questions that, we kind of initially put out some messaging and then had to update it because it didn't really convey our intent. Will there be a watermark on my PDF files? Short answer, no. We're not going to be watermarking every single page. If you use GM Binder right now, you know that it adds like a quarter page trailing credit, just like a Maiden GM Binder. And you won't be able to turn that off on a free account, but it is a pretty easy thing to remove after the fact. And, we're not going to enforce that it be there, but when kind of splitting GM Binder, the free version, into the Plus account, that was a pretty easy line for us to draw. So just a little unobtrusive trailing credit is the answer to that one.
Right. Look at that, Streamlabs, it's doing its job and telling everybody about the giveaway. In chat. Yeah, and so to build on that the bottom line is there's not going to be a watermark. There was definitely some confusion, and that pretty much covers it there. So there was a comment made in Slack about using Binder to prep every session, and then a follow-up question there for that person and how to prep. I also actually use Binder for prep. I not only use it for prep in our homebrew campaign, I use Binder for documentation and sharing it after the fact. So I tend to make like an outline of our session and keep it pretty short. The NPCs that were met, items found, locations, etc. Maybe some a quick high level of the activity. But I use Binder in a similar way, both pre and post. Yeah, so more questions or conversation related to that. Okay, so that's really kind of the Kickstarter related items. To just take a second to remind you guys, if you want to participate in the giveaway, use ! giveaway in chat, and that will enter you into the drawing. I'll be shortly after 9 o'clock when the bot takes care of that. You do need to be a follower of the channel here in order to qualify. That's the only qualification that you need. All right, what is GM Binder? So these are less questions and more just Renee and I kind of talking about what these features are. Um, does it make sense for you to pull up on screen?
I can. Yeah, we did get a question in the chat also. What is the archiving system going to look like?
We haven't really talked about that a whole lot internally,
Mm-hmm.
have we? So
yeah, I'm kind of wondering what archiving system is referring to, if it's
sure,
like the collection of your documents or the tagging or.
yeah. So it's a good question, and
Ooh.
it does not have a great answer. Um, yeah, it's difficult to find. So I guess actually, let me checking out my Twitch abilities here. I'm gonna change browsers and get over here and to kind of show what's being asked. Because Renee, you haven't used Binder a ton because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't been on the content creation side, but basically this is the interface that all of you are familiar with, and this is exactly why I should not be designing anything. But basically, the action that exists now is in the action menu. There's an archive button, which then pulls that out of this list, and the only way to get to it is in this View Archived menu. So that's basically a toggle with very little UX, and it's not intuitive to toggle between the two. I'm not even sure if on stream it's showing up well. But do you want to pull up, if you can,
Mm-hmm.
go back to this. If you could pull up the library view.
Yeah, let me see here how good I can be with this
Sure.
Hangouts. All
And
right. Let me know when you can see it.
looks like we can see it. Can you full screen?
Perfect.
We didn't
Uh,
test this part of the stream earlier.
sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I think that would correlate to this screen here.
Yeah, let me see real quick if we can hide. Try turning off your camera and see if that will
Oh,
allow
okay.
you to go away, but
Oops. Shoot.
while you're doing that, I'm gonna read through Slack or chat. I keep saying Slack.
Oh, there we go. I turned myself off. Is it better now?
Not really, but hopefully people can see. So yeah, if you want to talk through this, I think for those of you familiar with Binder and those of you that are Patreons and have actually seen the Binder functionality that exists today, we're moving away from this idea of keeping the two separate. So what Renee has on screen there, if you want to kind of talk about this library screen, is essentially folders. I mean, that's what binders are. They're folders, and you'll be able to archive and delete as you would normally expect to in a normal file system.
Yeah, so yeah, Levi kind of covered a lot of it. When I first kind of came in and started thinking about this as a whole and how, I thought would be the best way for users to navigate it, it was really weird to me that like binders were in a completely different location than documents. And I was like, well, isn't it kind of just like a collection? So that's kind of where we ended up going actually, is making a place where you guys can keep all of your content. And not even just the documents that you make in GM Binder or the binders that you group them into, but the ability to bookmark even external content so that you can have one place where you're keeping everything for your campaign managed. So specifically in this mock-up, I'm not sure how well you guys could see it. I hope you can.
Oh, there you
You
go.
can see we've got, yeah, I can zoom in a little bit. You can see you've got your folders. I've tried to visually designate things at a quick glance. So you can tell, is this a document? Is this a bookmark? Is it a binder? But managing them all from one place with the ability to make new ones over here. And then you'll be able to kind of filter and search your documents as well. So hopefully that is well on its way to making management of these a little bit easier for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the having some normal file management is going to be key here in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Mark,
And I think this screen also does some fun stuff, like you have the ability to like expand your document details and kind of see at a glance what you have selected. So
yep. And Kibbles, if I'm understanding your question correctly, about bookmarking for specific versions, I hadn't thought about that. So, for those of you not familiar with versioning inside a GM Binder, when you're working on a document, and Kibbles in particular, with some of the documents that you've created, there's multiple versions, right? And you're certainly not the only one to publish updates to content. I hadn't thought about a way to bookmark a particular version so that way they can get to. All right, you're going to have to get evicted from this room, Kitty. You stay back there. I hadn't thought about bookmarking for specific versions, but I don't see why we couldn't do something like that. I have to put a little thought to it, and Renee, that might be something for us to take into consideration on the author profile, which I suppose we could jump right into if we want to jump around on these. But the author profile, maybe there's a way for people to see previously published versions or a history of documents. So if they want to see an actual like V2, let's say the document's on V4, they have a way to do so. So I like that idea. I'll definitely take note of that. Let's see. Latest version. Right, and I do think the latest version is something that we'd probably keep as always the main link in any sort of sharing that we do. So, what do you want to talk about next, Renee?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can stay in these designs and keep going over maybe more of those, or I can hop back to answer more questions.
Yeah, well, if you want to, going from the library, maybe we look at the document viewer mock.
Sure.
Since you have
Yep.
that kind of full screen.
Yeah, let's see. Document viewer. Sorry, I just have to like click around till I find the right thing. Yeah, so here's the document viewer. And we're really just kind of, I think this is pretty close to what it already is. I mean, ultimately you're looking at the PDF that you've created, but just providing a nice little collapsible sidebar here so that you can kind of get information or actions at a glance, ability to download PDF. I believe we're also going to have different image formats, JPEG and stuff like that. The ability to view the markdown source and clone it just like you have the ability to today, but also kind of showing a little overview of some nice to have data, a little area for descriptions, and then reviews, which we think are going to be a pretty big new thing. The ability to have others, kind of rate and review your content. Then in the More tab, I believe that's kind of where a lot of the like settings and stuff are, like report abuse, stuff like that will be in the More tab over there on the side.
Yeah, the point you made about the reviews and feedback and whatnot, that's, the internet is great for opinions, right? And, and we've put, I mean, you and I had a good conversation about how we go about that. And, outside of the feedback of content, typos here, this is not balanced, this is balanced, this is great, that sort of thing. Just boiling it down to a rating system. Like, what do we do? Do we do a 5-star rating like an Amazon review? Do we do an upvote, downvote? Do we do something simpler? And, I think that where we kind of landed in that conversation was to do an upvote, just to stay positive and to not get too bogged down with somebody casting a 1-star because they just don't like the author sort of thing and whatnot. So I don't know if you have any more to add on the review side.
No, I don't think I do. Other than I was like looking at this screen and now I'm kind of wanting to put like an instant upvote button somewhere like pretty prominently, because right now I don't have that.
Sure. By the way, I don't know if you're watching the stream. I increased the size of your window so I think people can see it a little better.
Well, yeah, if I was watching the stream, it would be like some weird, crazy infinite loop of me watching the screen. So
true, because you're
I'm projecting or casting or whatever right now.
You're on your laptop. That's right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read some comments here. Hey, D&D Monsters here. Let's see here. yeah, and kind of to your point on your confidence being destroyed by the internet, strangers, that we have kind of landed on this idea. Oh, Kitty, if you knock over my camera. All right, move on. If we just in keeping it positive, that's kind of where we ended with this idea of doing just an upvote. Like that'll be your only rating system. You can of course leave feedback and reviews and that sort of thing where you can, explain your thoughts and your opinions and whatnot. But from a metric that we can use to promote content throughout the application, we wanted to keep it pretty simple. So hopefully the strangers are a little nicer with their arrows up, but the comments, those can always get you.
Yeah, I think somebody in a Discord channel suggested like the commenting or the reviewing being like an optional toggle, and I'm pretty on board with that because I know like if I
Yeah,
posted something, I would not I would not want anybody coming in there to leave anything. So
right. Well, and yeah, the it's something we haven't talked about since you're on the screen here. And from a mock standpoint, it's not super clear to show this, but right now in GM Binder, when you publish content, it is very just like, oh, I clicked a button and something happened. Like there's not really much ceremony to it. That's a word that at least I've been using, and maybe I'm abusing it, but there's really not much ceremony in publishing content right now in GM Binder. What we'd like to do with the publishing process is to, first of all, allow you to share your content in a way that you're getting feedback before you've shared with the masses. So think of it like a pre-published sort of mode where you're getting grammatical fixes and balance fixes, and maybe if you are selling your content and you're working with an editor sort of thing, you're able to share it with your editor, and they're able to make changes, or even to just provide feedback. So we certainly want to have this pre-published sort of place for your content to be, and then when you actually do get ready to publish your content, um, we want to go through and ask you some questions. Do you have an appropriate title? Do you have meta information like your meta image and descriptions and whatnot? Have you tagged your document so that way it appears in search for people? Have you made it public, or are you keeping it private? Like making sure that all of those things are clear for you. Because one of the things that I've seen over the last couple of years of Binder is people don't necessarily realize that when they're creating versions that those are being public, that they're actually putting them into the into the public search. And we want to be more intentional, or we want authors to be more intentional about the content that they push out there. So kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I think for me, in seeing people create content that maybe is intended for private use for their own party, house rules sort of things and whatnot. I've had people reach out to me because they've accidentally published content that they did not intend for it to be public. We've certainly had those come up, so I want to help to make that UX better throughout the site. So see if there's any more. Oh, real quick, since we're about halfway to the first giveaway, I guess that now infers maybe we're doing two. I don't know. Make sure you're using the @giveaway. You do need to be a follower of the channel to participate in that. But at 9:03 Central Time, I think, is when the timer will go off. So in about 30 minutes. What other on this screen here are there? Oh, you want to talk about the theme?
oh yeah, I can. So one of the big things that we wanted to do is move away from, the Dungeons and Dragons very specific theme. Because GM Binder is meant to be an agnostic platform for all types of tabletop content. So this was just kind of something that I've been just kind of making up. It's been pretty fun, to be honest, just kind of making little doodads to put in there. But we've gotten some really good feedback on it. And I really like, as a designer, I love that it matches the rest of the site. But we also intend to have a theme editor so that people can, more easily create their own themes, like what font am I going to use, what background image, colors, stuff like that. And then we also have plans, they might be in a tier, I can't remember, but the different genre themes. So not only offering this one, but offering a couple other, non-game specific themes, but maybe we have a sci-fi theme, or yeah, an anime theme, something like that. So that's something that I'm pretty excited about, just to kind of move away from the licensed content altogether. And especially for people that make up their own stuff, not based on a game, it'll be really nice for them to have.
Yeah, absolutely. One second, I started scrolling with the layout and yeah. So I made your screen a little larger for people to see. Uh, yeah, the themes thing. We also had a conversation about working with the community to create some themes. So I've reached out to a few people that have gone through and already are some of the names that you might recognize for theme creation in GM Binder. There's people that have created one for the Discord of Many Things. Different D&D books. We've had people create things for the Genesis or Lord of the Rings. All sorts of different themes that have been created, and we need to, with some of our plans long term, we definitely want to get back to our game agnostic route. So I think Renee's done a killer job in creating a theme for that, and it'll serve as a good base. And then, okay, so it's a D&D monster now. So you mentioned something there. Your comment, it wasn't a question, but if I ever come up with some kind of brand aesthetic, I like the idea of being able to build a theme around that. So you certainly can do that now. However, you need to know HTML, CSS. You have to have a good understanding of what you're doing, and to absolutely, if anybody has any questions, ask them in chat. We'll certainly try to get to all of them. But on the theme topic, one of the goals, in addition to creating our own theme for GM Binder as the default theme, you'll still have access to all the themes that you do today. So they're not going away. I want to be clear on that. All of your documents are not going to get changed. They'll all stay exactly how they are right now. So we're only talking about new documents going forward using this new theme. But in an effort to work more closely with publishers or indie publishers who want to who do have their own brand that they're trying to implement and whatnot. We are going to, with the appropriate support, so if maybe it doesn't happen in the Kickstarter but happens after the fact, we are going to build a theme editor that you can use without much technical know-how. Obviously, if you have the ability to use CSS and HTML, you're going to get a better experience. That's always going to be the case with GM Binder. But we do want to build a way for you to go through and say, okay, my H1, I want to be this font and this size, and H2 and H3, etc. My page background image is this, my footer is this, and it alternates on even and odd pages, or maybe it's at the top instead of at the bottom, or whatever. I'm not going to promise the world that you're going to have a complete GUI for creating themes, but I think we can cover a lot of the basics, and that we feel is going to go a long ways for really supporting some of these content creators that, I mean, let's face it, they're establishing a brand for themselves. I mean, many people, even some of the people that I'm seeing in chat right now, are people that are creating content and establishing a brand for themselves. So we want to help to foster that. And you're right. We could do it in a config file sort of structure, but the point of and the effort from our side is to make it easy for non-technical people to jump into. We want to allow authors that just have the ability to write and maybe don't know HTML and CSS to work in GM Binder. So we want to make it more friendly, I guess is the way to say it. So certainly not a requirement. You can use the existing themes and whatnot. And yeah. Anything else on this screen, Renee, that you can think of?
Not right now.
Okay. Since we're on the fun stuff, we kind of, now we're doing all the fun stuff up front. Do you want to pull up the author profile screen?
Yeah.
I'm going to read chat here real quick. Oh. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions, throw them into chat. And if you want to enter the giveaway for our metal dice set, we'll be giving it away, it looks like in about 20 minutes or so. Make sure you use the giveaway command. This is your baby here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the author profile?
Yeah, I would. So there was a question asked pretty early on about the author profiles. Will they be more social media like? I guess kind of in a way. We definitely wanted to give people the ability to follow their authors, be able to be notified when new stuff gets put out. We also wanted to be able to let authors link to their other social medias. So maybe they have a DMs Guild account, or maybe they have a Patreon, being able to showcase that stuff and their other social medias. We wanted to really give that ability. The trophy case, it's kind of just a fun little thing. Everybody kind of likes earning badges. So actually in the Kickstarter, we have a few exclusive badges, the I'm a Backer badge and the Early Birdie badge. Those are both really fun to make too. Just a few stats at the bottom, and then of course all of your content. So I kind of took a leaf out of like a little bit of a combination of YouTube and also Twitter, so that you can kind of, you know, feature one piece of content really prominently. So I would assume, you know, if it's your most popular document, maybe you want to pin it at the top. Um, but then, of course, all of your other public documents will be shown here. And then also being able to see like what that author is bookmarked, who they're following, kind of just interesting little stuff like that. So I guess a little bit like social media in a way. There currently are no plans to have any kind of like posting or like messaging, like that kind of aspect. But what you see here, I think, is a pretty good representation of what the author profile is going to be.
Right. On that messaging piece, I think that's one that we've always thought of. Any sort of comments or back and forth or feedback would be at the document level. If there was a push for it, I suppose we could see it at an author level, but I think we'd like to encourage the discussions to be at a document level versus at a profile level. So there was a question in chat about including another social media site, to be determined. I think what we'll do from an administrative side, because not everybody uses the same social media and different outlets that they want to promote, I think we'll have kind of a library of different ones you can choose from, and maybe a limited number of slots. Like right now in this design, there's 5 different icons that are there. Maybe that's the max, so maybe 7 is the max. I don't know. Certainly don't want to have somebody with 20 some icons. That just makes it look ugly. So we'll do the best we can at preventing you from making things look like crap. How about that?
Yeah, it was definitely sometimes intentions aren't conveyed in designs as well as I'd like them to be. But that was 100% my idea, is that we would have, you'd be able to choose the social media, website from a drop down and add your appropriate link. So it doesn't have to be these 5. It can be, pretty much anything.
Right. So a couple specifics that have been brought up outside of this conversation here, but in Discord, or we've been kind of all over the place getting different feedback on things. Something that we're going to do, I'm going to rephrase it. Something we would like to do that we're leaning towards doing, maybe that's the better way to say it, is on these author profiles, giving you as an author the ability to link to content that is external to GM Binder. Obviously, that is not going to be content that you can edit, that you could leave reviews and that sort of thing. It's more so that way you as an author or a publisher can start to use this as a place to really showcase all of your content. So maybe you have content that's on DriveThruRPG, or you have content on your blog, or on a Patreon, or on a Kickstarter, whatever. We're working through the idea of giving you a way to link to that content, to help drive traffic to those different places where you may have your content. So that's something that's kind of new, and certainly new to GM Binder. But I think people have been a little surprised that we're willing to do that and allow people to have content that's not GM Binder created. So yeah. Another question that for whatever reason this week so far, well, that's kind of one of the ideas right there. So the comment was made, by doing that, the person would not need WordPress anymore. And, there's other reasons for WordPress or for having a blog site and whatnot, absolutely. But if you're not a technical-minded person and you just want to have a good place for people to find your RPG content, that is really kind of our intent by allowing you to link to external content. So related to that, and something that for whatever reason has been coming up in the last few days, is selling your content. This is a question I've gotten frequently here recently, and that is, does GM Binder care if you sell your content on other sites? We've seen people go to great lengths to remove, the trailing footer that we have and the PDFs that are generated and whatnot. The short answer is no. Our philosophy and the way that we look at the content that you create within GM Binder is that it is your content. You own that content and will always own that content. Our terms of service outline this already. So if you do look at our terms of service, that is the intent. If we've missed a mark there, I'm happy for you to reach out to me directly and we can have a conversation. But our intent is that you retain the ownership and license to your content. We, of course, need to have, and our terms of service indicate this, you are granting us right to display it should you choose to. So I made a comment earlier, and most of you that have used GM Binder already know this. You can choose whether or not you make your content in GM Binder public or not. So the only license that we have is if you choose to make it public, we can display it on the site. So for example, in your user profile, we have the license to display that for you. So that's really it. So to kind of summarize on that, if you want to sell your content on a blog, you want to put it on Patreon, you want to create a Kickstarter, whatever it is, sell it on DriveThru or DM's Guild, whatever it is, you have that ability. I gotta say, it's been really freaking cool to stumble across Kickstarters over the last couple years where I see people raising tens of thousands of dollars to create content. And when I dig a little deeper, I realize, oh, hey, they're using GM Binder. Or you find the #1 document on DriveThru or DM's Guild and it's using GM Binder. That alone is a pretty awesome feeling. And yeah, that's my little tangent for that. Any other questions in Slack, please throw them in there. Renee, any more that we want to talk about on the author profile here?
I don't think so. I think we've covered most of the big feature ads.
Okay. We've already talked about feedback, ratings, and comments on other things, so I don't think we need to show any screens for that. The only screen that we really haven't shown is the search. Do you want to pull that screen up and kind of talk about it?
Absolutely. Well, hang on. We'll see if I can get there. I know that, well, it used to be linked. I think I might have.
Is Figma being angry?
Well, no, I think I just don't have it linked properly, but hang on. We'll just zoom all the way in on this guy. So we really want to add a lot more robust searching features and then also expanding the tags that we have being used. Actually, I think I updated this in a different part of the document actually, but I added a bunch more to this one. And then, so if you guys can read that there, just like the types, most of these are carried over from what is currently on GM Binder, but we are adding like environment, which is basically just the setting that you're playing in. So coastal, city, dungeon, etc., stuff like that, so that you can really start to, when you can really start to find the exact content that you're looking for. But then also we've been talking a lot about the tagging system, and if we're gonna let people just type in whatever they want, or if we're gonna have a more curated set of tags, like will people be able to suggest tags? So I think that's something that we're kind of still in discussion about, which I think is a kind of interesting topic. But yeah, these filters will all be kind of stacking, so you can keep drilling down into like a specific game, a specific type, being able to sort by most recent, most viewed. I guess alphabetical. Yeah, you can just sort however you want. So
sure. And these are, I think we have to get a little further into development and fleshing this out before we can be too specific about what the search is. But your basics like autocomplete and whatnot are going to be here. I mean, compared to what we have right now, the goal is to make it just more of a modern search engine. Screen wise, I think that's it for our list. Are there any that I'm not thinking of?
Um, I don't think so, other than like the actual editor, which isn't getting a ton of an overhaul, but
Yeah,
I guess I
not
can show it for what it's worth.
sure. And actually, it might be worth it to show uh, um, the snippet wizard mock that you have. So
I
while
think the snippet wizard is technically in a stretch goal that we have not
it is,
actually
it,
shown yet. So if that's okay, I would love to show it.
yeah, let's do that. So
Okay.
I guess disclaimer from what Renee's saying here. This is a stretch goal that we haven't announced, or it's further down the road. Um, uh, right now within GM Binder, those of you that have used it know that we have the little snippet menu, and it's not great. It gives a little. Get your checkbook out is the snarky answer. And I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the stream. We talked a little bit about the Kickstarter, and to say that we obviously have some more stretch goals beyond what we have out there right now. We're still hopeful that we're going to get to some of these things. We have some announcements coming up later this week and next week and whatnot that I think are really going to kind of cause some buzz for this. And I'll use this as a moment to just say anything you can do to promote our Kickstarter will be greatly appreciated. If you have a following on Twitter or social medias or what have you, give your people reason to support us, and that'll obviously help. But anyway, so the disclaimer being that this is something down the road. Currently in GM Binder, the snippet wizard is really pretty basic, right? It's a button. You get a list. You select through it. You get a half-assed preview on the side, and it's only in one theme, and that's really it. You click the button, and then it plunks in a bunch of code. Plunks in a bunch of code for whatever snippet you've selected. So for the simple snippets, we'll probably remain similar to that. But for the more complex one, and Renee, I think you have the location block that we've kind of used as a game agnostic example. We want to build a GUI for some of these more complex ones. So right now, the monster block inside of GM Binder right now, I think has 30 some fields in it that you can fill out once you plunk that into your document. We want to build a wizard or a GUI for that. So if you want to show and kind of talk through it, that'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also worth taking a pause just to say tabbed editor, that is a new thing that I think will be pretty big, so that you don't have to have, multiple browser tabs open. You can kind of keep the documents you're working on all at once together. So that's pretty cool.
You might want to zoom in on that a little bit just to emphasize that a little more.
Oh, so. I'm emphasizing it.
I think, at least for me, I was seeing that pretty well. So hopefully that translated into the stream cool. As well. So, tabbed interface, absolutely. I probably don't give that enough credit because it's something people have asked about, and I'm just kind of resigned to the fact that it's going to be there, and I don't think about it. But
diving into the snippet wizard, I've rearranged the toolbar a little bit, putting the snippet wizard over here. But when you pop that guy open, I am envisioning a pretty robust little tool here. So you can search through snippets, and then specifically what we've fleshed out pretty well are what I'm calling like the generators. So these are all of like the fancy blocks that you would want to place in a document. So you can kind of get a little preview here of what it might look like. Click build, and then it really just kind of holds your hand and steps you through setting up this pretty complex little template. So you can fill it all in and just step through putting in what you would like to, like a repeater for adding multiple traits, locations, all the encounters, and then finally getting like a pretty decent block preview that you can finally say, okay, I'm done, and it boom places it into your document for you. So I think this will be a pretty handy tool. And then I don't know if we've talked about if you would then have to edit it in here, or maybe you hover over it and it'll pop the snippet wizard up again if you try to edit this block.
To answer that question, it's going to take some effort, but at a minimum, it'll work like we have displayed here, and it'll be familiar to others that when you drop it in, it is there, and then you can edit the code from there. what I would like for us to do is to build some sort of identification system to identify a block of code like this and have a way to bring it back into an editor, so that you could go back into that GUI and edit some of these things. There's certainly challenges in doing so. If somebody goes through and bastardizes this, particular chunk of code here, and it breaks, the GUI that it's intended for, that's going to have some serious consequences and be a challenging thing to work around. But that question has been brought up in the past, and I would love for us to find a way to do it. It might be something where we'd have to do some logic to know if you've made any edits, and if you've made any edits, you lose the ability to use the GUI. That might be something we do, but it's a tricky one.
Do you think we could even do like blocks around like the beginning, like begin template, blah blah blah, and then end template, and then look for stuff in between those?
Yep, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So we do something maybe like curly braces, ID 123, and that obviously relates to something in the database, and then close it out with a curly brace sort of closing tag, and that would mean on our side we maybe hash that, or we do something to know if the author has made changes to that block, and if they have not, if that still matches what was originally generated, then we allow them to use the GUI. If it doesn't match, then they don't get that option. And something you and I hadn't talked about yet is currently inside of GM Binder, we have some in the preview pane. We have some navigation for like jumping to code locations and that sort of thing. And we could include some sort of hover menu over on the preview side there that allows users to get into the GUI for a particular block if it passes the appropriate validation. So
cool.
We really haven't talked about that a ton.
Yeah, I think something that is currently kind of buried in this design and not really fleshed out yet is also that little table of contents guy. So being able to quickly navigate through your documents from this view, this would just kind of pop out like a little sidebar with the table of contents in it.
That reminds me, I guess we've already done the editor, the What is GM Binder basics that was in our Kickstarter update last Friday. We might want to consider creating one specifically for that. So I'm going to I see there's a couple questions in chat. I'm going to come back to those. But on the topic of the table of contents that Renee's talking about, currently right now in GM Binder, if you just file new project or new document and you press Control Space, you do get our IntelliSense menu if you have any headers there. And there is the hamburger menu that's in the upper left-hand corner that you can click that will show an outline of your document and the navigation. Unfortunately, that breaks after your document grows of any substantial size. If you don't manage your headers exactly right, that breaks. So we do intend to fix that table of contents navigation and allow it to function, first of all, here in the editor as it's expected. So you get that little slide up menu on the left-hand side for quickly jumping around. Yeah, documents of the size that you're creating, it probably doesn't work. So we want to have it in the editor, but also back over in the document viewer, we want to have it there for the end user. So that way the readers of your content are able to jump around as well. So you'll still be able to have a table of contents inside of your document, of course. But with the viewer, we want it to be more robust, so that way users can maybe use hotkeys for navigation, like keyboard shortcuts and whatnot. There's a whole kind of slew of things that we'd like to do, but at a minimum, getting that table of contents to be a more useful navigation of your content is important to us. I would say one of the nice to haves would be when we generate PDFs, which I guess we haven't even talked about generating files. But when we generate PDFs, in a perfect world, we'll include that table of contents functionality in the PDF files as well. I'm not committing to that at this point, but it's something we'd like to do. Questions in chat. Is there any plans to have an in-editor spell check? Currently, you could just summarize that by saying currently it sucks, because that's pretty accurate. So without boring you with the hours and days and everything else that I spent in making what is there for a spell check to work. Let's see, there's some significant challenges with having spell check in an editor, period. For those of you that might be developers, seeing it in Visual Studio or Sublime, they kind of half-ass work in those environments as well. And those are, organizations with, full development teams, and even they have a hard time getting it right. We leverage an editor called Ace Editor. And with this rebuild, I don't know how much change we're going to make with that editor. We're certainly going to evaluate if there's an upgrade available or whatnot. We don't want to really rock the boat with that because that's kind of the core functionality that exists today, where the bulk of the work is. But to maybe give you a short answer, we'll do our best to improve the spell check. If anything, giving you an ability to turn it off completely, I think that's a minimum sort of thing that we can do. But to promise that we're going to be able to make it more accurate, to allow different languages as people have asked for, to have it ignore code, that's probably the biggest one, is to have it ignore code. I can't promise that at this point. Or even to just have it functional, so you can right-click on a red squiggly and get recommendations. It's a much bigger challenge than I anticipated when I first started to implement that. It ultimately, your browser leverages a browser spell check functionality, and when we start talking about cross-browser as well, that adds even more complexity. So, yeah, that's the answer there. It's probably not the best answer, but it's the answer I have for you. And I know there's more questions. I just want to look at the giveaway. I've never let one of these go through. It looks like there's 2 minutes left. So if you are interested in getting a metal dice set, and I just realized I didn't say when we would deliver this metal dice set. It's obviously part of our Kickstarter campaign, so it's going to be a while before we have it, but obviously we'll get your information for whoever does win it. Looks like we've got a handful of people that have gotten tickets for it. You do need to be a follower of the channel to register and use that giveaway command. So with a couple minutes left before that, and we'll continue talking. I don't mind hanging out here for a bit and continuing to answer questions. But let's see what we do have here in Slack. Something that would be helpful. Snippet tool to have a frequently used snippets. I can see that.
Ooh, well, hey, presto. We do have this little vague custom snippets section that I think is intended to house like a little, like maybe your own library, or if we're really ambitious, maybe even having being able to search for other people's and being able to publish those. I think I'm adding a lot of scope as we talk right now to this.
Thanks, Renee.
But I think at a minimum, we would pretty easily be able to save your custom templates and things that you've cooked up for reuse.
That is, and I would maybe categorize that as one of the stretch goals as well. We do want to allow custom snippets. That's fairly easy to just allow you to have your own snippets. There's certainly been conversation over the last couple of years about the ability to share your snippets with other people and that sort of thing. I would put those in the nice to have camp, but certainly something that we've put some thought to. Earlier, somebody asked a question to have a generator for your what do we have here? Custom generators, a generator for your generator, if you will. I'm gonna put
Is it the exhibit guy? Is he back?
No, we had somebody else that was like an announcement for our announcement, and the exhibit jokes were had. Yo dog, exactly. With that one, with the generator for generators, probably not. I think that'd be a pretty big challenge for us to do, and maybe the way to say it is it's not on our radar at this point. If there was maybe a bigger justification or a wider audience that was going to use it, I think we could take it into consideration. It's obviously doable, but is the juice worth the squeeze? Maybe is the way to say it. Sorry. But and those are, with all of these features that we're talking about, right? That's really what it comes down to. And again, this is a side thing for us. Yes, we're generating money with Kickstarter. We're trying to make GM Binder to where it does generate revenue for us so we can continue to support it, grow the audience. but there's a limited amount of resources that we have available to building out things. So your boss says that all the time. I'll try not to ever say it again. But those sorts of features are certainly the ones that are nice to have, but just require a lot of work. So the only thing, I bet the giveaway has been up. You can no longer enter the giveaway. Oh, I get to click the winner. All right, well, I'm going to answer a couple more, or one more question, because it's in my list, and then we have some maybe some code questions that I might touch on if that person's available. The last thing I wanted to touch on was sharing of content. So I kind of went on a tangent earlier about sharing, selling, whatever you want to do with your content, and the fact that you, as the author, will always retain ownership and license of your content. And I just saw you change that, so let me...
yeah.
Yeah, now your giant screen.
Oh no.
One second here. Next time we do this, we'll prep and have an actual overlay so we don't see our browser window URLs and stuff. So anyways, on the sharing thing. So I already talked about your ability to sell content and share content however the hell you please. We are going to add some functionality, though, within Binder. Just the social stuff, that's maybe some what I would call low-hanging fruit, giving you easier ways to share your content on Reddit, for example, and actually integrating with the Reddit API, so that way you can compose your post right in GM Binder, and it can pull in whatever links and meta tags and all of that stuff, simplifying that. Those are kind of nice to have things. I don't think that we'll, unless there's maybe an opportunity to partner with and work with, I don't think we'll integrate with any sort of e-commerce platforms or marketplaces that exist today. But I would maybe extend that olive branch to say that we would be willing to have those conversations. One of the things, though, that we are going to build, and I think this is tied into one of our goals that's currently announced, is the ability to share your content privately. Right now, when you create content in GM Binder, it's one or the other. You are either keeping your content private to yourself and you print it, maybe use it for your table or that sort of thing. That's obviously one way. The other option is to, coding is easy. Yeah, just press some buttons, copy and paste, and it just appears. The other option is to publicly share your content. And once you hit that share button or that publish button, it is available for the world to see, and you really have no in-between. So one of the things that we do want to add is private sharing, basically an ability to share with a specific group of people your content. It will be they will have to have an account. They will not need to have a GM Binder Plus account, even if you do. You will need to have, I want to clarify this, that is a GM Binder Plus feature, your ability to share content privately with other people. Those people that you share with do not need to have a GM Binder account, but the goal is, or the intent is that basically when you share a URL with somebody, they actually have to log into the system, and we validate that, yep, they have access to it. Just like a Google Doc. You share a Google Doc and you have view access or edit access. And if you caught that, that's the other feature that we were going to touch on, is co-authoring. We're giving people the ability to edit content. I'm not going to elaborate on that because that's certainly a stretch goal for us, the ability to edit other people's documents. But that will, at a minimum, if we do get to that goal and supporting that feature, will be you've given people the ability to edit your documents, but it will more than likely, unless we just blow out this Kickstarter campaign, it will more than likely be a one in, one out sort of thing. So if Renee and I have a document that we're working on together, if I'm in there and she tries to hop in to make changes, she'll get a message saying, Levi's editing. Do you want to let him know that you want to get in, sort of thing. So pretty simple. It will not be, again, unless we really get the funds behind this, I do not anticipate it being like a Google Docs where two people can be in editing at the same time. And the reason for that is because of the amount of flexibility in our documents with all the HTML and CSS and drastic formatting changes and whatnot that can happen with the deletion of a single character. That's one of the big reasons why we probably will not have live editing. So, shared editing. That's all of the main questions. The person that asked in the Discord of Many Things about image placement, and I made the comment about live coding on a stream. If you're still in chat, throw a message in there. I do have an answer for you to show you some samples of code. But otherwise, I'm probably going to move past that if there's more questions in chat. We'll get to the giveaway. But while I get ready to do the giveaway, Renee, are there any things that you want to add to this conversation?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to quick answer. We had a question come in the chat. And I believe that, yeah, it is exactly the intention that you can make, friend documents or, documents that you privately share with members of your campaign. Although that is, I believe, a GM Binder Plus feature is the private sharing.
Yep, the private sharing. And you're right. That's maybe one use case. There's a handful of different use cases. To share with your party is probably the most predominant one. We've had people reach out to us and ask, can my editor, I'm the writer, can my editor get in here, my publisher get in here and download and whatnot? And the short answer is no, you can't right now. So that's also another use case where you're working on a team in your documents and you want to allow other people in. I'm not going to commit to and I don't want to allude too much to this functionality, but we've also had some conversations about integrations with Patreon and Kickstarter, and maybe allowing via API access and whatnot, access to your GM Binder URLs instead of, so right now with Patreon, many people have Patreons set up for creating and sharing content. It's a D&D monster now. You in particular, I believe you have a Patreon and you share content that way. You are obligated then at that point, there you go, to share PDF files, right? Because that's what you have to share. What we would like to see with private sharing and maybe a further down the road sort of scenario is for you to tie your Patreon account to your GM Binder account and then to share directly with those users without having to enter their email address or anything like that. So that's a thing. Again, I'm not promising it. It's certainly not a feature that we've committed to at this point. We've had a similar conversation internally to do the same thing for Kickstarter. So maybe you run a Kickstarter campaign and certain users at certain reward levels get access to PDF versions or to your pre-release documents. Those are some things that we've talked about too. So get a little sidetracked on the sharing. Any other questions we haven't answered, Renee?
I don't. I'm actually reading the whole chat now because the whole time I was showing designs, I wasn't reading any of these things.
Okay.
Sorry, I got out of control with the snippet wizard.
While you're going through that, I'm not really the last comment there. Code only view. I'm not following what your question is. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? And while you are, let's do the giveaway. So that way, if there's people that have been here for the full hour and you do want to bail, you're not obligated to hang out. So I'm going to pick a winner. I'm telling you, I think it might only be people that are still active because there's only 6 people in here right now. So, and we'll just click the button. There we go.
Yay! Congratulations!
Congratulations! It's the first time that we've done a giveaway here, and I think I want to maybe do that again with we'll do more of these in the future once we kind of get our swag stuff. We got T-shirts and dice trays and whatnot. But if you could, I guess whisper me. I'm not sure messaging in Twitch. I don't typically message people on Twitch, but I'll figure out a way to get a hold of you there. Or if you're in our Discord, you've never won a giveaway. Well, you're in an elite group right now of one that has received or that is at least committed to receiving these dice free of charge. You did not have to back us on Kickstarter to get these. So if you're in our Discord, if you would ping me directly, I'll get information from you. Like I said earlier, it's going to be towards the end of the year before we actually have dice in hand. Outside of our one set that we're getting here in the next couple days. So again, I appreciate you participating in the giveaway. Other questions?
I think I can answer that one with the code editor. And actually, it's currently a thing where you can drag that middle the little middle piece and make it like the editor as big as possible. So it takes up most of the screen. It looks like it leaves like maybe 2 inches of your actual document, but we're planning to kind of carry that over into the new version as well.
Yep. So I'm sharing right now, and it would be similar to, and I'll go into one of these that I was going to do earlier. So this is one of my documents. Most of you, if you're working at least on a desktop, I don't think this works very well mobile. You can use the slider, and then I believe, man, it's been a while since I've used this. There is a full screen mode. I have no idea if you guys can see that right now because it just full screen for me. But if you can see my mouse moving, it's the rightmost icon in the editor page. Will take you to a full screen code and preview, and then you can slide it off to the side. And we'll carry this functionality over into the new build out as well. Are there others? Awesome. I saw your message there. Perfect. Are there any other questions right now in Slack? I keep saying Slack.
You've said Slack like at least 10 times tonight.
If you guys don't know, at the office we use Slack for communication for everything, and I'm not a Twitch streamer. I don't do this on a regular basis, so I'm not used to saying chat. Yeah, Renee, are there any other topics to talk about while people maybe throw in ideas or things to questions in chat?
Yeah, I think there was another question about the like the Dungeon Fog World Anvil collaboration. Right now, we can't really say too much except for it is in the works, and we're looking at all the different ways that we can integrate with each other, support each other, and overall just like make better platforms for the community.
I think that's the easy one to say because both of those organizations are very public about it, and although we don't. Up until this point, we haven't really done much with social media and trying to have a voice and whatnot. We definitely feel the same, and I think that comes through in my comments earlier about ownership and whatnot. But we all had a very similar vibe in regards to supporting the community, supporting creators, and doing the right thing. So there's maybe some assumptions on how GM Binder operates and what we think and whatnot. And hopefully those things become more and more clear as we start to have some of those conversations and be more public with those conversations. So more coming soon on World Anvil and Dungeon Fog. I did a lifetime of Dios. Liking one. Yeah. And that's kind of where the conversation started. I happen to see, so I've used World Anvil just from like a checking it out sort of standpoint. It's not something, I'm not a world builder, so it's not quite for what I need. But when we were, before launching our Kickstarter, I don't know, Renee, would we spend a month?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of off and
on? About
a
month, yeah.
About a month building out our Kickstarter campaign. And I adjusted the wrong thing there. And the Dungeon Fog Kickstarter campaign was kind of in the second half, and so I got to kind of see that and see some of the things that were there, and I thought it was an interesting campaign. So I reached out to Till more from like a, hey, let's help me understand from a marketing standpoint. I mean, this is not what I do every day. I've never done a Kickstarter campaign, and that kind of conversation kind of sparked where we are now. So good people all around.
Mm-hmm.
Would you make if we were to, I again can't say anything, but get ready for a lifetime subscription to GM Binder. That's the short answer. There are definitely some good talks. Renee, are any other questions or topics that we want to go over? I'm looking over the list. What about photo uploads? Yes, okay. We have not mocked this one, and because it's kind of not a sexy feature. Quick summary of the state of the union. And the question is, what about a photo upload to GM Binder? I look at it more as like a photo library is maybe the way to say it, specific to you and your account. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sure if any of you are editing documents, if you've ever put an imager URL in a document, you know that you get the warning saying, oh, we found this URL and we've replaced it with a GM Binder URL. The reason for that is about a year into GM Binder's life, we got a love letter from Imgur, basically saying that we were in violation of their terms of service. A bit of a badge of honor, to be honest with you. It's pretty freaking cool to be noticed by a company of that size. But the gist of it is because we are serving content that was what many people were linking to. Yeah, cease and desist, exactly. Because many authors link to images or use Imgur for storage, that's essentially against their terms of service. I'm not going to bicker whether or not I think it's right. We know that there's another site similar to GM Binder that still has the ability and has not had any issues there, but whatever. We built a system to pull those images out. Anytime we see one, we pull them out and we just throw them into our server, we generate a URL, and that's the end of it. And you don't have any good way of managing that. So back to the original question, yes, we do intend to build some sort of image manager within your profile. It will be probably pretty rudimentary. I don't see there being any sort of editing functionality or anything like that inside of that, like you see in Imgur, because we have other things we got to build. So there's that. It should make finding URLs for your images much easier. You shouldn't have to go digging in other documents to find an image and whatnot and reuse that URL. So it should be pretty straightforward. The other thing, though, that we are going to do, and this is in one of the stretch goals, I don't think it's in one of the currently displayed stretch goals, is to build an image blender. This would be a GM Binder Plus feature, and what this would be, and I'm going to share my screen here real quick, and this kind of goes back to the thing I was going to do earlier. Give me 1 second. So yeah, we'll use this one. So this is a document of mine that I've never published. It's from D&D Wiki. I'd reached out to the author and tried to make something a little better laid out than what he had. But ultimately, so if we use this as an example, right now, those of you that know, when you want to place an image on a page, and I don't know if you're going to be able to read my code or not. Let's see if I can increase the font size. No, that's that. Whoa, I can't imagine working in fonts this big. But you can probably see it. So to place this image down here on this page 15, what you end up doing is you have to use CSS, right? You have to know where you're going to use it, and we've created some classes for image bottom and whatnot. What we want to build is a GUI that kind of it helps you with the blending of images. So maybe this isn't a good example to show blending. This is using this style to do the mix blend mode multiply. Let me take this off, maybe that will show a little better. Yep, gotta wait my 3 seconds. So you see the white line that's here on this image. We do want to build an image blending tool that will more easily allow you to control that CSS. So it'll still be CSS driven to do the different blending options and whatnot, but to build a GUI to make that easier. So I don't have a good example to show you, and it probably doesn't make sense without actually showing you some sort of mock, but hopefully you're able to follow along with what I'm saying there. Let's see here. Yeah, so the question is related to server space and cost and whatnot when you're uploading 3 or 4 copies of the same image. So if you are using Imgur URLs, we're only actually saving 1 copy. So if you use the same Imgur URL, hey Mara, how's it going? If you're using the same Imgur URL, we do index that ID because that is a unique URL, and so we correlate that to whatever our ID is. So maybe to clarify for you, if it is the same one, we are saving space there. But that was one of our concerns when we rolled that out, and that was almost a trigger for us to make GM Binder a paid-for tool for everybody. Fortunately, I guess without getting into details, we were able to manage it in such a way that it didn't drive up cost tremendously. It certainly had an impact, and the Patreon funds that we have coming in today don't go as far as maybe they could if we didn't have that. It's probably half of our cost to pay for bandwidth and whatnot because of those images. But it is a manageable cost at this point. So it's a thing. It's part of doing what we do. With only notifications, any plans? The 1,000 line 3-second delay stuff should go away completely. Without getting into the technical ins and outs of what we're doing and rewriting and new stuff, the editor. As soon as I saw the question, I knew as soon as I said something, especially with the audience that we have in here right now, that would be well received. Brief history: the reason why it is the way that it is because we process your markdown on your editor and the HTML that's there to generate what's over on that side. I arbitrarily picked a 1,000 line 3-second delay. I've tweaked it a little bit a couple times over the last year. Quit playing with my headphones. Thank you. This is who we're dealing with here. This is Mara, and she likes to just plop down right in front of me when I'm at my desk. Anyways, we are going to make a complete overhaul of the save process that will have a pretty big impact on the efficiency of saving and should do away with the need of having this 1,000 line 3-second arbitrary delay. The other thing, and I don't know how many people have been impacted by this that are here in chat. If you've been in the community at all, if you've been on Reddit, we have one bug that has never been able to be fixed. I have not been able to find steps to recreate this bug in a way that then I can fix it. And that is where people lose, an hour's worth or a couple hours worth of work, or they see random things inserted into their document. That is really probably the biggest reason for rewriting the save process, because we can't identify what the problem is. So we're just heavy hammer approach, and we're just going to rewrite that process. And as an artifact of that, we're going to get rid of that 1,000 line 3-second delay. So, yeah, I cringe. I literally cringe every time I see somebody post in Reddit, in the subreddit, that they've lost, half a day's worth of work. And I hate the idea of communicating, back up your work, save offline copies. No, we should be reliable. The platform should be reliable. But I can't tell you how many hours I've spent, how many dozens of people I've tried to work with in Discord or on Reddit to can you tell me what you did? What were you doing? Was your internet flaking out? Do you have 2 copies open, etc.? And the only thing that seems to be somewhat consistent is using the snippets menu seems to be related, sometimes, maybe, and large documents seems to be the other thing. So I feel like it's something in the save process that is getting hosed up. So anyways, that was a little longer of a response than planned, but yes, the 1,000 line 3-second thing should be going away, as well as that nasty bug. Any other questions in chat? See, I said chat, not Slack. I had to think about it, though. Renee, anything that you want to elaborate on?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not off the top of my head, at least.
Small save problems, yeah, it's a shit problem for sure. So I'm just gonna scan back over chat here. All right, you gotta go, kitty. Cat butt.
Yeah, I should have had my cats in here. I intentionally locked them out.
Brandon's keeping them comfortable.
He is.
Yeah, sorry. Looks like somebody did miss the giveaway. We did it about a half hour ago. So real quick on that. So giveaway related to the fact that we're going to do these Q&A sessions for the next few weeks, basically while the Kickstarter campaign is going. We're going to do them Monday nights, 8 o'clock Central, same time as we did tonight. We'll probably, improve the list of questions that we have and maybe be a little more concise in some of the answers and try to answer more questions. But do feel free to join our Discord. I'm going to throw that into chat again right now. Oops, that's not it. That is the CSS that I just had. 1 second. I'll throw the Discord. Well, I'll make a command as well inside of Twitch here, so you can do the command Discord to get the Discord URL. And, but yeah, so Monday nights, 8 o'clock for the next few weeks, we're going to do these. We may continue with them after the campaign as well. We'll see. I mean, this is now, this is getting into free time sort of thing, and we'll try to do the best we can. We might start doing them during the day if there's more of a demand to do so. But that's kind of our plan at this point is the next 4 weeks. Any more themes coming? Adventures and such, an assisted builder. So we talked about these things a little earlier, and to answer your questions in order, yes, there will be more themes coming. We will be moving away from the player handbook default theme that is there today, and instead we'll be implementing a GM Binder custom theme to our platform. The intent of that theme, I might have to just put her out of the room. The intent of that theme is to be game and genre agnostic, to be kind of a generic. Why is that showing up above Renee's head there? Oh, 1 second. I gotta find the browser where that's at. Too many damn windows open. How did that? Whatever. You guys can see the Discord thing, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Well, now I'm just. What was I just talking about?
New themes.
Oh, the new themes. That's right. The questions are there. New themes. We're going to have a GM Binder theme as the default. And in addition to the one that we're going to kind of launch with, we do have a plan to offer additional themes that are more genre or environment focused, like a sci-fi or a fantasy or this, that, or the other. And we'd like to work with the community and actually pay members of the community to build these themes if the Kickstarter will support it. So I think it's maybe our last tier that's currently announced, or it might be the first stretch goal past what we have out there. So definitely more themes coming, and an ability to create your an easier ability to create your own themes within GM Binder outside of just mashing on HTML and CSS. We want to give you guys a theme or a GUI. Back to the questions. Adventures and such, assisted builder. So we're not producing any content. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, no, we're not going to be producing anything. Obviously, the author profiles will be a more robust feature. So finding content and finding adventures that authors are producing, absolutely. That'll be something that'll be much easier to do in the new system. And then the assisted builder. I think the only thing that I'm coming to with that question is our snippets wizard that we talked about for some of the more complex snippets, to give you a GUI to work with instead of having just code to work with. So there are some plans for some builders there.
Mm-hmm. And I think like the theme editor would maybe fall into that same category. And then we've tossed around the idea of like a rich text editor, like WYSIWYG sort of thing. That one's a lot more far out right now, just because of like the endeavor to completely overhaul that.
That's a big one. that's definitely a big one from the tech side. Sharing and selling themes. So we're not. At this point, we're not facilitating any selling of content within GM Binder, and to sell themes and whatnot. I think maybe the another way to say that is we wouldn't stop you from doing so in a way that you find. So I'm not trying to be elusive in that response. I just don't know how you would go about selling it. I mean, I guess if you have a blog and you want to sell the HTML CSS for a theme, that's totally up to you. If you want to list something in a drive-through RPG or on a Patreon or something like that, that's totally up to you, and something we're not gonna stop. So, are either of you running or playing in an RPG campaign right now? I definitely am. I have 3 different campaigns that I participate in. I have one that I'm DMing right now. The Dragon Heist campaign, we're just on the end of it. Prior to that, I was running a homebrew campaign, and actually that campaign is what caused me to start GM Binder to begin with. I wanted a tool that gave me some different abilities and whatnot. So that homebrew campaign is on hold for the time being. We've been super busy at the office, and I just have not had time to prep. So the one campaign that I do DM, I'm using book content. We've really enjoyed it. And the other 2 games that I play in are both homebrew campaigns as well. And both of those DMs, obviously they're a little biased because I push them to using GM Binder for finding content, but they both use GM Binder to some extent. Neither of them are, creating content in the way that many of you in chat are, but they certainly are using it to find content, and that kind of is one of the reasons for this conversation, this Kickstarter that we have going right now, is making it easier to find content. And Renee, unfortunately, you've played. You said you've played like a one shot one time.
Yeah, I've played like once with a group of friends in college, like right before we all scattered to the wind. But I am actually pledged for a dice set right now, so I will be starting. And I will say that like working on this, I feel like I've learned so much about the community and just everything going on. It's really kind of inspired me to get involved and start playing myself. So.
With 3 games going on at the office between you and Brandon, I think we've got to get you guys joining one of our games as they come up here in the future. As we
I think Brandon's watching right now. Hi, Brandon.
Yeah, he is. That's I assume he is. He was earlier. That's why I was throwing him under the bus there, getting his commitment for his Wednesday nights. All right. See if there's any other questions. Theme creator, we talked about that. Moving away from, we will be moving away from the player handbook default style. You'll still be, and just in case I wasn't clear in my kind of recap there just a minute ago, you'll still be able to use the existing themes that are in the platform. We're just not going to default to the player handbook anymore. It'll be a default to our GM Binder theme, and then you'll be able to swap that out with any of the ones that exist or any of the ones that get created or have been created by the community right now. It's kind of an interesting little search. If you go out to the GM Binder site and do a search, and in the tags text box, and again, I realize that UI is horrible, but if you type theme in that tags filter, there are some interesting themes that you may have no idea that people have been working on. There's a Star Wars one that I found in there. There's a Blackthorn one. There's a Genesis one. There's a lot of just custom kind of people working on stuff, sort of thing. So themes are, I'm really looking forward to adding that functionality and seeing what people create. I think it'll help the indie publishers. Those of you that are selling your content on and trying to establish a brand and getting your trade dress in place. I really think that will be a useful tool for you. So. Renee mentioned fonts before. Will this be fonts we have to upload, pre-selected fonts, or fonts we can link to from Google Fonts? Do you have much of an answer on that?
So I think that's a really good question. That's not a particular flow that we've discussed. I think that allowing the entire Google font library would be pretty easy. I know that there's like a ton of other places that leverage that. So that would be the easy yes answer. Yeah, I guess it would be kind of up to us to manage internally and decide how robust that is going to be. But I think at a minimum, we can have the entire Google font library pulled in.
I think that is the easy answer, or the easy swing for us to implement the Google Fonts library. Those are already external, and really providing you with any way to an easy way to reference any URL-based font. I don't see us being in a spot where we allow people to upload font files directly or that sort of thing. Fonts can be tricky in regards to licensing and ensuring that you have the appropriate licensing in place. So that's always going to be our hang up. Even with the fonts that we leverage right now, they are all open source fonts. Like these are not the official fonts by any of the books that we have themes for. These are fonts that others have created and we found, or people have brought to our attention. So yes, fonts are a pain in the ass, especially when you consider different operating systems, different browsers, etc. Fonts on the web just aren't great. So we've been fortunate that the fonts we have work pretty okay. I'm trying to remember which font it was and for which document or which theme. We actually had to reach out to the original creator and ask them to make some change. I don't know how to edit fonts. I didn't have that ability at the time, but there was a particular character, if I recall correctly, that would cause documents to crash, or not crash, it's a web browser, but cause a lot of issues, and we had to reach out and they made some changes to the export of the file. And yeah, fonts are a pain in the butt. Yeah, I agree. That would be a good first step, like Renee said. The Google Fonts, googly fonts, being available would be a good first step. So we're about 9:45 right now, our time, coming up on about 2 hours. I kind of want to wrap this up, and Renee, I appreciate you hopping on and answering questions here and giving kind of that design perspective. It's better than me just rambling on in a monotone voice for 2 hours. So there's that, and you've got a lot of value that you've provided here. So any other questions for myself or for Renee before we hop off this stream? Renee, is there anything that you want to, if there's one feature that we haven't mocked that you want to mock, what would it be?
Ooh, dang, that is a hard question. Like a Kickstarter specific feature or a like
GM Binder, like what you've been hearing people talk about, and you've been in some lively conversations over the last couple of weeks in Discords and in Reddit and whatnot. Is there a feature that's been thrown out there that would be something you'd want to mock?
I think definitely like the most exciting thing is the potential for a marketplace if we end up going that direction. I've really enjoyed the discussion and the conversation that's been going around about just content creation and making sure, that people are compensated and stuff like that. And I totally agree. So I would be really excited if we were able to get to a point where we could do something like that. But the thing I'm really excited about doing is like designing all of these little badges and trophies that are going to be available. Just like thinking of the different things. Like I love my little Reddit trophy case where I'm like, oh, I was team orange red like 5 years ago. That's pretty sweet. But doing badges for certain achievements, like maybe you get a certain amount of followers, you get a badge or a trophy, or one of your documents goes viral and something for that. I just like thinking of those little awards and things that people can kind of use to trick out their profile page.
Periwinkle, nice. You mentioned that, and it took me like, wait, red, orange. Oh, okay. It's like an April Fool's thing, or right?
Yeah, I think or like I was snapped, like.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned the creating different themes as well when we were at the office the other day, and
yeah, that's been really. I think I mentioned that earlier when I was kind of showing off the new theme. It's been like. I never thought that I would be working on something like this. Like I've always kind of done like super corporate stuff. So it's been really fun to kind of just flex in a more creative direction and be able to work on little pieces like that.
Yeah. Our typical clients are certainly not RPG document creation tools by any means, are they?
No.
It's been fun. So, all right. With that, it doesn't look like there's any more questions in chat. I really appreciate everybody hopping in. I don't know if I think last time we did this, we had 12. I don't know if we ever exceeded that for viewers, but you know what? It's a pretty specific thing. So we are going to continue to do this for the next few weeks, Monday nights at 8 o'clock. Like I had mentioned before, and I suppose I should do my quick thing here to share the Kickstarter URL, and this time I'll try to paste it in the actual chat, not in a box in there. Please do check out, share, support us in whatever way you see fit and fits your current scenario in life. We certainly appreciate any backing that we get on the campaign, anything that you can do to share it and communicate to others. I think if there's one ask that Renee and I have for you today, that the 10 or so people that are still watching here, we've had some challenges with explaining to non-creators the value of GM Binder, because that value doesn't exist very well today. there's the ability to search and to find content and to know that you're getting good content and that sort of thing. So if there's any messaging or ideas you have in regards to that, we would love that feedback in our Discord server. But to see you communicating that out, we certainly are doing everything we can to find any sort of communication or chatter about GM Binder. We'd love to see that interaction and to see that promotion happening. So that's our ask of you. Other than that, Renee, closing thoughts?
Smash that like button.
I think we're in the wrong platform. Follow the thing. Yeah, hit the heart. We aren't partner or whatever the 50 level is. It looks like we still need 30 followers before we can do the subscribe thing. I don't think we do that. Yeah, I don't think Twitch is going to be we're never going to be a Matt Colville or somebody with hundreds of viewers every time they get on, sort of thing. So anyways, again, I appreciate it. Thank you, Renee. Thank you for hopping on tonight, and take care, everybody.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.